get this shared out. Get this out on Twitter. What's up? What's up? Let's get this shared out. What's going on, guys? Do I like any Cowboys stacks today? Cowboys are always a tough stack. It's always kind of hard to get the receivers right. I think CD is a decent pivot today. I don't mind Zeke now that Pollard's out. I think Zeke could be a good play. But they're tough. I don't know. I'm just not going to play Gibson. I get it, and now he's definitely a smash spot with what's his name, McKissick out. But it's I don't know. It's one of those plays that if Gibson's going to be like 30 or 40% owned, I'm just going to hope he's going to stay, 20 or less, something like that. But in cash games, you absolutely have to play Gibson for sure. David Johnson out. Do you like Rex today? And like Jeff Wilson, need to find some cheap options. I'm not playing Rex today. I mean, I get it. I'm not playing any of that Houston offense, especially with Davis Mills as quarterback. I'm playing a bunch of Seattle defense. I don't see what they can do today. Jeff Wilson. So Jeff Wilson, I was on Hasty more than Jeff Wilson, but now the issue is that Deebo Samuel's active, or he's supposed to be active. I don't know if he was officially active, but if he is, then obviously he takes some of the carries away from both of them. So that kind of scares me off of them. So I'm actually going to kind of stay away from the 49ers running backs today now that Deebo's active. I think that kind of throws a wrench into all of that for sure. Everyone that's here, if you could hit that like button for me, please. Helps out big. It's one quick, easy click. Does a bunch. Interest in Ricky Seals-Jones without Logan Thomas now. Yeah, so, I mean, that's always an option too. I just kind of picked my spots elsewhere. I've got a bunch of McLaurin, and I've got a decent amount of DeAndre Carter. So that's going to kind of be my exposure to that Washington offense. But I don't hate Seals-Jones for sure. Pull up this cheat sheet as we go over it. Let's get this up. Most owned backs today. Let's pull this up. So my most owned running backs as of now, and obviously this can change. Got 60% James Robinson, 50% Cordero Patterson, 50% Alvin Kamara, 40% Saquon, and 25% Javonte Williams. So that's where I'm at. I think Saquon's in a decent spot today. He's one of those guys, though. Ownership's always tough to figure out what you're going to do with him. Whether it's sometimes you feel like he's going to be super under-owned, sometimes he comes over-owned. I think he's going to be right at that 10 to 15% range today, which I think is a good range for him. If for some reason he's going to come in at like 20% or higher, then obviously it's not as great of a play. But Eckler is one of those guys I never get right. So I'm not playing him this week, so you probably should. But Eckler, I never get right. So I'm just not playing today because I'm not playing much of that offense. I'm playing a couple of the cheaper receivers. Obviously, Palmer over Guyton is the guy that I would prefer, just as kind of a cheap wide receiver that you can kind of throw in anywhere. But, I mean, Eckler's not a bad play for sure, especially with Keenan out. You expect he's going to get a lot of receptions today. Alan Diggs' favorite stack today. Yeah, I think the Bills keep that game close. I think a lot of people think the Bucs are going to blow them out, or I think the Bills keep that game close. And obviously, if they do, Allen and Diggs is for sure two main guys. What else we got, guys? What else? Pull over. We can go over some of these things right now. I'll go over my personal ownerships right now. Guys that I have as of right now, and obviously this can all change. So if we're going quarterbacks, this is for my 20 max. We got 30% Taysom Hill, 20% Trevor Lawrence, 20% Cam Newton, 15% Heineke, and 15% Russ. So that's my quarterback ownership today for me. Whatever running back, but I'll do it again. James Robinson, 60%, Cordell Patterson, 50%, Alvin Kamara, 50%, Saquon, 40%, Javonte Williams, 25%. Receivers. So I've got a bunch of Julio today. I love Julio. I've got 75% Julio, 55% McLaurin, 50% DJ Moore, 30% Chanot. Right now I have 35% DK, but I think that'll probably go up a little bit. 25% Lockett, 20% Palmer, 15% Carter, 10% Robbie, 10% Guyton, and 10% Laquan Treadwell. Burrow, Chase, stack. I'm not playing them, but I actually said to Jason, DFS NASCAR, earlier today, I said, and he's a Bengals fan too, I said, when Jamar Chase goes off today, I called it, but I'm not playing him. But I think Jamar Chase is a good play. I just one of those guys that I'm not going to get to this week, but I think it's a good play, and obviously understand everyone playing him and would not be surprised at all if he goes off, maybe even have a prop on him or something like that. Tight ends. So tight ends, I'm pretty much split up. I've got 40% Everett, 40% Kelsey, and 30% James O'Shaughnessy. So I have my 20 max. So that's 8 Gerald Everett lineups, 8 Travis Kelsey lineups, and 6 James O'Shaughnessy lineups. Cheapest D you get on FanDuel. Let me pull up FanDuel. The only 2 Ds I'm really playing today are Seattle and the Giants for the most part. Although Jacksonville is kind of interesting. But the issue with Jacksonville, which is a big issue when you play defenses, is they suck. So as great of a spot as they're in, they suck. So that's the issue with Jacksonville today. All right. Defense. Ferkser always is one of those tight ends that seems to just be like when you expect him to do well, he doesn't do well. When he's chalk, he doesn't do well. When he's not chalk, he does well. It's just an interesting. I'm not, because I just have so much Julio today, I'm not going to double stack that Titans offense without playing Tannehill, and I'm not playing Tannehill. So I'm just hoping Julio has a Julio day. All right, defense on FanDuel. Cheapest, I would go. I mean, you could do the Jets at 3K, because as much as Taysom can put up points and run, he still has that ability to throw picks for sure. So I think the Jets are a decent punt if you're going to play that minimum defense on DK. On FanDuel, sorry. You could even do the Raiders at 3,100. I know it's gross, but that defensive line can get after that offensive line if they can get a couple sacks, and maybe if Mahomes throws a pick or two, they hit value at that minimum value. But I would still try and prioritize. I mean, with this pricing, I think you've got to go Seattle at 4,500. But I think if you're going to pay down, you'd pay all the way down to the Jets at 3K and just hope that minimum D, hope you get a couple turnovers or something off Taysom. Let's see what else we got. So if we're looking at my defense ownerships for DraftKings, I just have Seattle and the Giants. I've got 80% Seahawks, 20% Giants. So that's kind of where I'm at right now for defense ownerships there. But yeah, I think today is a super, super, super interesting slate. There's not as many games as there's usually X amount of games that people – it's so cold in here. There are usually X amount of games that, people like the game stack, or it's, this guy's going to be super popular from here, this guy from here. And there's really not much of that today. And even kind of the one that is kind of the one that I'm not really playing much of. I mean, you can make a lot of cases for a lot of different games being that game stack of the day for sure. But I think that's why today's interesting, because I think it's just it's always interesting when it's harder and when there's not any super smash plays. And obviously now with McKissick out, Gibson could be that super smash play. But I've already committed to the Gibson fade for this week. I played him last week. I've committed to the fade for this week. So if it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. Everett be your favorite tight end on FanDuel super cheap? Yeah, probably. I like Gerald Everett a lot today. Gerald Everett's in a really good spot, I think. Let me go back to pull up what I was looking at for him. So what I like for him is his target share. Let's go. So let's pull up Gerald Everett. Love when the computer just so slow. Any Hubbard love? I'm not playing Hubbard today, but once again, running back's one of that tough spots where I get no issue with that. What do you think about Jared Cook? So Jared Cook falls back into that category of, if you're playing Herbert and you're going to stack that Chargers offense, you can. And I think that's for sure a good way to do it. But I'm just playing the cheap wide receivers, like I said, mainly Palmer and a little bit of Jalen Guyton. But I'm not playing much of that Chargers offense outside of the cheap receivers, and just because I think Keenan makes a lot of that go, and it's going to be interesting to see what, is Eckler getting these targets? Is Cook getting these targets? Is Mike Williams? Does Josh Palmer have 10 targets today? Who knows what's going to be? So that's why I'm just kind of hopefully play that cheap guy, Josh Palmer. And is that name right, Josh? Yeah. And then just basically hope that he hits value and he's, got the, I don't want to say easiest path to value, but the quickest path to value because of his price. And the reason I like him over Guyton is Jalen Guyton's role won't change. Jalen Guyton is that 4-3 sprinter down the field. That's what he's going to do. That's what he does. Palmer's more likely to take on that Keenan role. And obviously that Keenan role is much different when Josh Palmer's running those routes and not Keenan Allen. But he's the one that should step into that Keenan role more, which is why I like him. And I think Guyton's going to be the one that people are going to play more. I think Guyton's going to be double his ownership. I think Guyton's probably 10 to 12% owned, and I think Palmer's right around 5% owned. So that's kind of why I'm going there for that. Javonte Williams or Zeke for 200 more. I think in tournaments I would play Zeke. I think in cash games I like Williams. So if we're looking at Gerald Everett, if we go back to week 10, so their bye week was week 9. So coming off the bye week 10, he had 8 targets. Week 11, he had 4 targets. Week 12, he had 9 targets. And week 13, he had 6 targets. So if we're getting a minimum of 4 targets, but realistically somewhere between 7, 8, 9 targets for Gerald Everett, that's what I like. That's especially against this Texans defense. Which is why I think I'd rank him if you're playing if you're not playing Russ and you're playing one off Seahawks, I think Gerald Everett's the first one that I would play just because of that. And once again, obviously he's much cheaper than a DK or a Tyler Lockett. Man, sometimes my brain turns off. Names, sometimes they just don't stick. I see a lot of people talking up Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I mean, I guess I get it, but I don't really get it. I just think there's a lot better plays. If he's going to be a low-owned play, I think that's I don't mind that if that's the reasoning for it. But to me, I'm not going to CEH. Just not a play for me today. But I have seen people talking it up, and a lot of guys that I think, that I know what they're talking about, and guys that win a lot of money playing DFS. So CEH, I guess, isn't the worst play today. That almost could be just an interesting way to play. Something like that is you could play, like, let's say CEH and like Renfro, or like just not really stack that game, just kind of play one or two guys in that game. You kind of do the same thing with the Dallas Washington game. You could play, like, if you like Zeke now with Pollard out, let's say you could play Zeke and play either Gibson or McLaurin, or not necessarily stack all of those guys, but you could stack those guys for sure. My lineup last fill spot comes down to Jeff Wilson. Do I need to rearrange, or is Wilson worth that stab? My lineup last fill spot comes down to Jeff Wilson. I need to rearrange, or is Wilson worth that stab? Yeah, like I said, I don't think Jeff Wilson's a bad play today. I just, with Debo back, it throws a wrench into all of that, because how much he lines up in the backfield and how many carries he could get. I mean, if Debo was out today with Elijah Mitchell out, Hasty and Jeff Wilson were both in great spots. But now we know how Shanahan is with those running backs. Who knows who's going to get targets? Who knows who's going to get carries? It's tough. But I don't think you need, if you like the lineup, I don't think you need to rearrange at all. I think that's a decent, like, Jeff Wilson's not, I don't think it's like he's, now that Debo's in, I don't think Jeff Wilson's such a bad play. You need to rearrange that lineup. They're like, Tyreek is a great pivot, a great leverage play today, because I don't think many people are going to play him. Great leverage play today. I rarely play Tyreek, but I've got no issue playing Tyreek. I get it. But yeah, he's a great leverage play today. But that's kind of what my take is on Julio. I just think Julio is going to be way, way under-owned. So Julio is kind of my leverage guy at $3,000 cheaper. I don't even know what Tyreek is, but Julio's got to be $2,500 cheaper. And that's always a weird game with the Chiefs and the Raiders. Raiders, especially that D-line, have a chance to keep it close and have a chance to, put some pressure on Mahomes and make him make throws he doesn't want to make, or make him throw before he wants to throw it, or, make them go back to doing that whole bullshit underneath stuff. So, and that kind of does take away some of that Tyreek pizzazz. Obviously, he still has that run after the catch and can make guys miss. But if he's not behind defenders, or if he's got, 4 guys in front of him as opposed to 1 or 2, obviously it's a much different situation. So be curious to see how the Raiders play that today. Raiders like to play a lot of cover 2. I don't think they're going to play a lot of cover 2 today, just because of how I think they're going to try and bring more pressure. I mean, you can still technically play cover 2 and bring pressure too, but that's going to be almost one of those things where, unless the Raiders make adjustments or, whatever, that's you could see after the first 5-7 plays for the Chiefs on offense, unless they're just running the ball, what I always want to call them Oakland, what Vegas is going to do to stop the Chiefs. It'll be interesting, because the Raiders are a better defense than people think, but so much comes from that defensive line and getting pressure. And they play, like I said, they play cover 2, and they have a lot of guys that can cover. They cover areas better well than men. Let's put it that way. So when they're in zones, they're able to cover the area of a zone better than following men around, which is sometimes why when they play cover 2, if they're trying to get some pressure, it's because the men, if they're playing man defense on the outside, you can only get X amount of seconds from these kind of corners to guard these guys. So that's what's going to be interesting with the Raiders today. Or do they do what a lot of teams have done to the Chiefs and make them throw underneath and make them do that? Or, because that's the difference. If they're going to make him throw underneath, obviously Kelsey is the guy that you want. Not that Kelsey can't beat him deep, or not that Tyreek can't beat him short. But that's kind of been that thing, is when teams are making you play underneath, Kelsey's been the one to go off. And when teams are kind of trying to bring some pressure and playing some man coverage on the outside and saying, hey, we'll get after the quarterback before you can finish your route and get a good throw off, that's kind of in the games Tyreek's beating them. So it's, that's going to be one of those interesting. That's almost a game where it'd be, I'd like to say you do like one of those like flash drafts or something like that on DraftKings, because I think you can get a lot of value from watching that game and seeing, using your eyes to tell you what's happening. That's just my personal opinion. Like, I know that was a long answer for Tyreek. But that's kind of why I've gone for Kelsey over Tyreek today, because I think they're going to make him play the underneath game. But it is a guessing game. For anybody that's here, appreciate you guys joining, listening, asking questions. If y'all could hit the like button for me, great deal of help. Definitely much appreciated. On FanDuel, who would be your two targets in the 6,400, 7,100 range? Let's see for running back. Let's pull up FanDuel. FanDuel. What was the pricing? 6,400 to 7,100. So 7,100. Jacobs 6,400. I mean, call me crazy. I'll be honest. I like going down James Robinson 6,400. If we're playing for tournaments here, I rank them James Robinson, then Zeke, then Javonte Williams. If we're doing cash games, I'd rank them Javonte Williams, Zeke, then James Robinson. That'd be my answer for that. But I like James Robinson a lot today. Obviously, fucktard Urban always can fuck you. But, I mean, look at what he did last time they played. James Robinson is one of those guys. And now that I think there have been these reports coming out of Jacksonville that, whether it's true or not, that people are starting to get frustrated with Urban and blah, blah, blah. But the other stuff that's coming out is that guys are saying that James Robinson needs to be used more. So I think if James Robinson is going to be used more, this would be a week, because I think this is a week that Urban's going to try and, lack of a better phrase, make the players happy. If we're looking, what week did they play? They played week like 4, right? 5, something like that. Last time Jaguars played the Titans. Titans beat them 37-19, so obviously it wasn't even a close game. Titans beat them 37-19. James Robinson had 18 carries, 149 yards, had a 58-yard run, so obviously that's a big part of it. But even that, if you take out that, he still got 17 for 90, still a good game, and a touchdown. So, I mean, basic math, what are we doing there? It's 14, 20, like 25 points. And that's with no receiving upside. I mean, James Robinson obviously has receiving upside, but in that game he didn't. He had 1 catch for a -1 yard. So I just think James Robinson's in a really good spot today. And Tennessee's one of those defenses that you can always break off a big screen or a big carry. And James Robinson's one of those guys that when he hits that hole, if there's room to be gone, he's gone. And I've been a big James Robinson believer forever. I think James Robinson, since almost like week 2 last year, something like that, where it's like just once again, just using your eyes, the eye test. It's like you just watch him and just like sometimes you just watch a guy and it's like he's that guy. And James Robinson is that guy. Just it's a combination of his ability to make people miss, but he's almost got a similar feature that I like a lot about Nick Chubb and people talk a lot about Nick Chubb now, how he stands up so he can see the defense before the play starts. These guys that are able to kind of see how the play is happening before the play happens, they can see that hole before it opens. That's the difference, because there's a lot of guys that can see a hole and they hit a hole and they're gone and they're just quick enough and fast enough to do it. And not that Robinson and Chubb aren't quick and fast, because obviously they're 2 of the faster guys in the league for sure. But they're guys that can see that hole before it opens up. And then you've already kind of hit that hole full speed, which is why you see a lot of these long runs from guys like James Robinson, guys like Nick Chubb, because before the hole opens up, they're already at full speed. And sometimes you'll see they'll run straight into a lineman and straight into, nothing. But that's, because they're basically anticipating what's going to happen, which is why I'm a big fan of James Robinson. Metcalf or Chase, throw in Terry for that too. Yeah, I mean, I love James Robinson today. Like I said, Urban can always fuck you. Urban can for sure fuck you. So, if he plays James Robinson today and James Robinson just doesn't play well, I'll eat it and I'll say, hey, it was a bad play. It was what it was. But if he gets like 8 touches, something's gonna happen. So what'd you say, Terry Metcalf or Chase? I think I would go. I like McLaurin a lot today, but it's tough. I think at DK still first. DK and Terry are 1A and 1B. I like playing Terry because I'm playing Everett in a lot of those lineups, so I'm not going to play Everett and DK unless I'm playing Russ. But yeah, so I think I'd rank them. If you're not playing Gerald Everett in that lineup, I think I'd go Metcalf 1, Terry 2, Chase 3. Yeah, Ertz or Schultz this week. Is that for fantasy, I'm guessing? Since Ertz is what are they? They're not tonight. They're Monday night, right? Tonight's, I think, Green Bay, Chicago, and then Monday night's Arizona. Ertz or Schultz. So for fantasy, if it's PPR, actually, I guess it doesn't really matter because they're PPR. I'd lean more Ertz. I think I like Ertz either way. But once again, that's just because that Dallas offense, we talked about this a little bit earlier, that Dallas offense is just so hard to predict with the guys. And especially with Pollard out, maybe Schultz gets a couple more targets, but that also means that if Zeke gets going, that it might just be the Zeke show today. So I think I like Ertz, but that's tough. That's definitely tough. But I think they're both in that 8 to 14 point range this week. So half PPR Yahoo. Yeah, I think I'd go Ertz. It's tough. Have they for sure said anything about Kyler? Is Kyler playing this week? Do we know that for sure? Not that, I mean, Cardinals have still been good without Kyler. But if Kyler's back for sure, I would like Ertz. Originally had Tyreek and Jeff Wilson. Now got Robinson and Terry. Let's get it. I like Robinson and Terry more than I like Tyreek and Jeff Wilson. Hey, and if Tyreek and Jeff Wilson both go off and Robinson and McLaurin suck, you know where to find me. So I'll take the heat. I keep going back to this Ertz and Schultz. That's tough. It's yeah, I think my gut says Ertz, so I think that's what it's got to be. But I wouldn't, like I said, I think both are decent plays for fantasy. I don't think you're sweating out either, and I don't think either is going to go for 25 and make it worse. Just my opinion. Anybody here watch that F1 race this morning? That is. Anybody that says NASCAR fixes races, I guess they never seen F1. What else, guys? Got a couple more minutes before I finish getting my lineups out. What any other final questions? Anything else? I'm gonna try and get a couple bets out as well. I love when I do my streams on Sunday, how I like very clearly look hungover, and it's like sometimes people try and do what they gotta do to make them not look hungover. It's like, no, like I hopped in the shower, made a cup of coffee. Is what it is. People aren't here to see me. People are here to listen to me. So, but whatever is what it is. Let's see. I can go through my my ownership again as well, real quick. Let's see. I'll go through my personal ownership as well. Thank you guys for coming here, for joining. Like I said before, anybody that's here, if you could hit that like button, goes a long way, helps a bunch. Definitely would be much appreciated for sure. Let's run through my personal ownerships one more time before we close this out. If anybody else has any final questions. So let's do this. So this is my 20 max for right now. So I've got 30% Taysom Hill, 20% Trevor Lawrence, 20% Cam Newton, 15% Taylor Heineke, 15% Russell Wilson. So that's 6 Taysom Hill lineups, 4 Trevor Lawrence and Cam Newton lineups, and then 3 Heineke and Russell Wilson lineups. Running backs. James Robinson, 65%, Cordell Patterson, 50%, Alvin Kamara, 50%, Saquon Barkley, 40%, Javonte Williams, 25%. Javonte, I don't think it's a bad play. I just think he's going to be 20% owned and a little higher than I'd like, but obviously he's kind of the only guy there. First week is his feature back. We all saw what he did, and obviously playing that Detroit defense, Detroit coming off a win. Who knows if they ride the momentum, or who knows if it's hey, we got our win. We're not going to, now let's keep that number 1 overall seed or number 1 draft pick, I should say. Receivers, right now I have 75% Julio, 55% McLaurin, 50% DJ Moore, 40% or 35% Chanel, 40% DK Metcalf, 25% Lockett, 20% Palmer, 15% DeAndre Carter, 10% Robbie, 10% Guyton, and 10% Laquan Treadwell. That's my receiver ownership. Tight end ownership, I've got 40% Gerald Everett and Travis Kelce. So I've got 8 lineups with Travis Kelce, 8 lineups with Gerald Everett, and 6 lineups with James O'Shaughnessy, 30% James O'Shaughnessy. And then defense, before we get out of here, I've got 80% of Seattle, 20% of the Giants for my 20 max for DK. So that's kind of where I'm at right now. So, yeah, if anybody has any final questions before we get out of here, we'll do another 30 seconds, 45 seconds before we get out of here. But I got to finish building my lineups and get those bets out as well. If anybody's got any final questions before we get out of here, let me know. Appreciate y'all joining for sure. It's always a blast. I always like talking this stuff out because sometimes I can hear myself say it out loud and realize if it sounds stupid or realize if it sounds good. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with that. Any final questions? I'm looking through Twitter real quick to see if there's anything major that I've missed that needs to be talked about. Cheapest quarterback you'd get in FanDuel. Pull up FanDuel and then we'll end on that one. Quarterback, FanDuel. Let's go down. Let's see. So what? 6K are the backups. So if we're going to Trevor Lawrence at 6,300, I think he's a decent play. I think you need to. I don't mind playing him with James Robinson either. You could for sure do like a Lawrence Robinson and then throw in one of the receivers or a Shaughnessy stack. I think that's a good one. But if you're looking to go up a little bit, Heineke's a little overpriced. I think you're good saving some money with Trevor Lawrence 6,300, and then if you're going to pay up, I assume he'll be somewhat chalky. But Taysom Hill, I think, is obviously the play if you're going to pay up. But Trevor Lawrence is a good price on FanDuel, so I definitely don't mind that. Thank you guys for joining. Definitely, for sure, love helping you guys out. Hopefully, somebody can win some big money. We've had a couple guys this year send some screenshots of some 5, and I think we had 1 6-figure payday. But hey, if I'm not going to win the money, hopefully one of you guys do that. That's the goal. So thank you guys for joining. Every week, I'll tweet out my final stuff before this slate kicks off. But let's do it. Let's have a great slate today. Let's somebody make some money. Let's do it.